Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Banerjee and today we are going to talk about variables and data types in Java. So let's get started. So in my last video, I have created this project called sample project, and there I have created one class, that is demo class.java, and I have created that class inside this source folder, and I have created this com.Banerjee package over there, right? Now today we will discuss about variables and data types. Over here, as you can see, I have created this class where this main function is there, and in here I will declare a variable and I will assign certain value to it and I will display that value. So what variable exactly is? Variable is a container that holds the value which we might use in our entire program. So to use a certain value in throughout the program, we need to store that value somewhere temporarily, right? For that, we need variables. Okay, so we can imagine variables as containers. Now, when we declare certain variable, a particular amount of space in the memory location is allocated for that variable. Okay, so whatever value we insert in that variable, that value will be stored in the memory location which was allocated for this variable, right? Now, in that case, we have to mention which kind of variable or which kind of value we are storing in that variable, okay? Otherwise, see, depending on which kind of value we are storing, the size will matter. If we're storing a small value, in that case, a smaller amount of memory location will be enough for us. If we're going to store a large value, in that case, we might need a larger memory location. But if we don't specify the type of data we are going to store, the memory, there is a possibility of, wastage of memory space. So our code should not acquire unnecessary memory space or should not waste unnecessary memory space. That is why we have to mention the type of variables we are going to take there. Now, so this type is called data types. Okay. Now we will see. So there are different types of data types. Okay. First we will see how to declare a variable. Now to declare a variable, first we will give the type of that variable, as in which kind of data I'm going to store in that variable. Now, I have to give a certain name to it, right? So, when we are allocating a certain memory location or memory space, in that case, we have to give it a particular name so that we can recognize that particular space, okay? So, for example, I will give the name as A and I will assign certain value over here is 10, okay? So, this is how we declare a variable. Now, assigning a value is not mandatory. If I declare int b, this is also perfectly fine. In that case, 0 will be by default, 0 will be assigned to b. Okay, so if I'm not providing any certain value while I'm declaring a variable, by default, 0 will be stored in that memory location. Okay, now, is this the only data type that we can use? That is int? No. Now, when do we use int? We use integer. Int stands for integer. Now, we use integer when we want to store a whole number, right? Now, so I can say integer stores whole number. Now, is there only integer who can store whole number? Actually not. So there are different types, data types, which can store whole number. For example, byte, then short, then comes long. Now, why there are multiple data types for storing only whole number? Because all these data types are having different size, okay? So for example, integer actually acquires 4 byte. If I say 4 byte, that means 32 bits. But byte actually acquires 1 byte. Okay, so 1 byte means it is 1 byte, that is equals to 8-bit. Okay, short actually acquires 2 bytes. That means 16 bits. So as we all know that 1 byte equals to 8 bits. Accordingly, the size I am converting into bits. Okay. Then comes long. Long is actually equals to, it acquires 8 bytes, equals to 64 bits. Now, for example, if I want to store only value 10, then actually I don't need to have int. Byte will be actually enough for me, right? If I want to store a short value, so if we want to see the range, in case of byte, the range is -128 to +127. Okay, so if I'm trying to store any value from -128 to 120 plus 127, I can easily use byte data type. In that case, it will save the memory space because byte is going to acquire only 1 byte of memory space. Whereas if I use a variable of integer data type to store only 10, in that case it will acquire 4 bytes of memory space, which is a complete wastage for me. Now, if there is certain situation where the value can vary from, for example, 10 to 1 lakh or more than that, in that case, I might have to use integer or short. In that case, I cannot use byte because in case I store a larger value, then byte won't accept that value, right? Now, let's look into the range of short, that is -32768 to +32767. Okay, so I can store any value between this using a short type of variable. Okay, in case of integer, the range is, okay, so basically this is the range for an integer number. Okay, integer variable. Okay, in case of long, that's even higher than that. So depending on how larger number you are going to store, you can use byte or int or short or long, right? So for example, if I use byte b, I can store, and in here I will change the variable name. Okay, and for short s, long l, right? So in here I can store 100, and here I can easily store 10,000. And here I can store, whenever we are assigning any value for long type of variable, in that case we have to mention an L at the end. Okay. So these were about the whole numbers. Now we will go for fraction numbers, right? For fractions we have float and double. Okay. So float variables basically can accept 6 to 7 decimal digits, and then the amount of space it acquires is 4 bytes. Okay, so it will store 4 bytes and it will acquire 6 to 7 decimal digits, right? For example, if I say 10.35. But again, when we are storing any value as a float, we have to mention f, because when we store a fractional value, the data type is by default double, but if we want to consider it as float, we have to mention f. It's better to consider as float, or it's better to mention it as 4, because the amount of memory space float type of variable acquires is 4 bytes, whereas double acquires 8 bytes of memory space. So here, for example, if I declare a double variable, double D equals to, I can write 100 point, right? And in here, double is actually going to acquire 8 bytes of memory space, and it will allow you to store 15 decimal digits, right? Now let's go for some other data type, that is Boolean. Now Boolean is such a data type which has only two kinds of values, either 1 or 0. So Boolean can store either true or false. True, 1 for true and 0 for false. Okay. So Boolean actually acquires only one bit of memory because it can store only 1 or 0, not more than that. So there is no necessity of acquiring more than one bit memory space. Now the next type of data type is something where we can store certain alphabet or certain different character, right? As of now we were talking about numbers, but this is the time to store characters. So for that we use char data type, right? So for char, it acquires 2 bytes of memory space because char actually one character variable can hold only one character, right? So if I say char c equals to a, so when I'm storing a certain character, I have to keep that value inside single quote, right? And it is going to acquire 2 bytes of memory space. So these are the primitive data types which we use in Java, and this is how we declare a variable and assign some value. Okay. Now, for example, if I want to print certain value, how do we do that? We use the statement system.out.println, and within bracket we have to mention the name of the variable for which the value we want to print. And if we want to print anything or any string, in that case we have to keep that within double quote. So for example, if I say the value of a is space, that means I want this part to be printed as it is. That is why I'm keeping this part inside double quote. Okay. Now I want to print the value of a. When I'm trying to print the value of this variable, I won't keep that inside double quote. In that case, I will concatenate this value with this string. So for that, I will use a plus symbol and then I will say a, the name of the variable, and semicolon, right? So this is how basically we print certain value. Here println was for to print in the new line, and if you want to print in the same line, then you can skip the ln part. You can go for system.out.print. So we will just run this code once and we will see what happens. So you can see the value of a is 10, right? Now if I say the value of, for example, l is, and I would say l. So let's see what it says. The value of l is whatever value I've given to l, right? So this is how basically we create variables and we assign data types to it, and we assign values, and we print that. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in my next video. Till then, goodbye. Take care.